In this video, I'm going to give you a brief tour of my remix so that maybe it can help you find a direction of which way to go in your remix. You are under no obligation to follow my example or to do what I'm doing. This is just meant as a resource to help you. So first thing you should notice about my remix is that it is highly organized. I have almost everything in groups as indicated by this group icon. And I've even kept the unused material. If you watched my previous videos in this module and in the previous module, you'll know that I had a bunch of MIDI clips and FX vocals tracks and everything, source material, warped original tracks. All of that goes into this group I'm calling unused material, and then I mute it. Eventually, I could just delete that track, but since I'm not 100% sure that there's not something in there I'm going to use again, I'm just going to keep it around. If I open up my drums and percussion, you can see that I have built the drums and percussion up scene by scene. And so I did this first. I started actually with the percussion, and my goal here is to have the drums and percussion tell their own story. That's how I think about it. They start small, with one loop or one sample, and then it builds up from there. And as I'm going, I'm constantly mixing as I go. I'm not waiting till the end to mix. I'm adjusting volume levels. I'm adding effects as I go. I am adding compression and EQ so that when I finish a section, it all sounds pretty good together. I'm going to play the first few scenes of these percussion and drum tracks so you can see kind of how it tells a story. So I'm going to solo my percussion tracks, and I'm also going to solo these drum tracks. Here's the first scene. And now the rhythm picks up. Okay, I've stopped it. So with each successive scene, I'm increasing the intensity of the rhythm. And I'm also sort of widening the frequency content. It starts very narrow in frequency, and it adds frequencies as we go along as the instruments use different frequencies. Here's the next scene with a kick. And we have a basic beat going. It's pretty important if you want to get a remix played in like a club or on like some kind of remix stream on YouTube to leave a lot of room at the beginning for just drums and at the end too. But it's more important at the beginning. If you have a lot of drums up at the beginning, a lot of unpitched material, then it's much easier for a DJ to mix your track into the set. We call that a lead in or a mix in, and a lead out or a mix out at the end of it. This allows them, like if they have a turntable and they're listening to your track on one side, they can sort of sync up the tempo with whatever's currently playing. And then when they transition into it, it's smooth. Whereas if you start with chords or vocals or a bass line or something, then they have to worry about the key change also, and they might be just like, forget it, I'll just use a different song. So give the DJs a break, leave some drums and percussion up at the front by themselves so they can mix your track in. Moving on, further down the scene here, you can see it gets more intense if I go into, like, for instance, scene 9. We have the main beat, I just call it beat 1 playing, the impact kick, the kick clap, the percussion, and there's a lot of loops happening at the same time. And the melodic material would determine, how long these scenes last. Is it going to be 2 bars, 4 bars, 8 bars? What's it going to be? Down here, I have a transitional scene where it's just a shaker, and then it goes into a completely different feel, this halftime feel for like a B section. But again, it starts small and builds up for that section too. Notice that I'm using some of the same loops in this halftime feel. That helps tie the sections together so it doesn't sound like they're two completely different pieces of music. And so once you can get the drums and percussion together to tell a story, then you're ready to add other parts. The next part that I added was the pads, because I had already reharmonized the melody. And if you watch the previous video, you saw my method of making banks of variations of the reharmonized and original chord progressions. And then I just went through and decided when I wanted to hear each one and at what point. So if I solo the pads with the drums, you'll see a similar trend toward building energy up and releasing energy. And now I'm going to go into the reharmonized chord progression. And the goal here is for every new C, new trigger to have a change in energy. Maybe there's more energy, maybe there's less energy, whatever it is. I should also mention that this is not the final product. In next week's module, I'm going to show you how to record stuff into the arrangement view. And there are some considerations. For instance, there are pickup notes in the main melody. Baby, you and I know. Those words, baby, you and, those are pickup notes. And pickup notes are like sort of difficult to manage in session view, but they're very easy to manage in arrangement view. So I'll show you an example of that later on here. But if we keep going, we're reaching this sort of climax in scene 11 with many loops playing. And I'm going to go ahead and add the bass in here too, since it also contributes to the energy. Now, if I add the arps in, we'll get the last part of the harmonic picture here. So again, it's about directing the energy. Dance music and remix music is a lot different than like other kinds of music, like a rock song that might have an intro and then like a verse and then a chorus and then maybe a guitar solo for the bridge. It's different than a hip hop song that might have all verses, right? Or it might have long sections where like a rapper is rapping. Dance music is much more about the DJ or the producer controlling the energy and thereby controlling the movement on the dance floor. If you haven't been out to a club, I really suggest you get out to one and just like dance all night long. It will greatly enhance your understanding of what we're doing here. So the last thing I added here was this vocal section and then this saw lead. And for the vocals, as you saw in an earlier video, I chopped them up into a drum rack and I used different effects. And then what I did is, since these are all on drum racks, I just used my MIDI controller to play them as the remix went and record them sort of live. So I edited them, I quantized them, and then this is the result. If I go to scene 3, and then I'll bring it into scene 4 here with the primary vocals. And so you can see I'm not using like all of the vocals. I'm not following the original like order of the words necessarily. I'm just doing basically whatever I want. And that's what I recommend you do. Now, originally I recorded all of these in one track, and then I sort of parceled them out, experimenting with different effects at different times. And this is what I came up with. Right now, this has been playing at the original haywire tempo of 115 beats per minute. That's actually not how I worked on it. I slowed it down so you could hear some details. I'm going to go ahead and speed it back up to where I originally had it. And this is going to be the tempo of 128. And the cool thing is that if all of your audio is warped correctly, and if all of your MIDI is entered properly, then adjusting tempo in live is a snap. I just did it. And so on and so forth. So I'm going to put this whole project up on Blackboard so you can have access to it. You can sort of look at it and get some ideas. The last thing I have here is this saw lead. And this is kind of a stereotypical thing, but it's in like so many remixes. And so after a while, you know, when the song comes back around. It's had its A section, it's had its B section, and now it's kind of going back into like a combined A-B type of section. You want to add something that is interesting. So down here in scene 19, I've added this melody that just kind of goes with the chord progression, but it's different. We haven't heard it before, and here it is. I'll get into it from scene 18. I missed the trigger for scene 22, but you get the idea. This clip right here has an interesting aspect to it. It has pitch automation. So here I have sped up the rhythm, and then if I look at my envelopes, I've also transposed the pitch with this automation curve here. And so this is what it sounds like. And it's kind of a neat effect. Just thought I'd show it to you. So again, I will put this up on Blackboard. Feel free to pick it apart. Don't steal from it for your own assignment. I want you to be original. But you can certainly steal ideas because those don't belong to anybody. So I hope you found this useful. Make sure you are grooving along to your work the whole time. If it's not groovy, it's not good. Good luck.